Colin was right where Colin was wrong. At the top of the very next hour, Trent Dilfer stops by too. Jay Glazer on coaching stuff. It is great. Of course, Joy Taylor is joining us. It is great to have you in. There is a real dilemma coming up, and it's kind of fascinating. And I want to talk about this for a few minutes because it's something I've made some calls on. I've talked to people about. I've talked to people I trust. And it can be confusing. In football, you got to be careful of falling for the hot thing. A lot of people fell for Tebow. I said, no. A lot of people fall, hey, Mitch Trubisky, this college RPO. No. That's not what wins in this league. Go look at the last 30 winning Super Bowl quarterbacks. It's mostly Hall of Fame guys who can throw from the pocket and can't run. There's a dilemma in Philadelphia. They can't pay Carson Wentz and Nick Foles next year, and they're going to have to pay both. Wentz is better than Foles. He's a bigger player. He's a better arm. He's more of an athlete. He's absolutely a better quarterback talent. But Foles keeps winning. Foles is 4-0 in the playoffs. Foles has a Super Bowl. Foles is 11-2. And this is what it comes down to. This is something that with every gift the man upstairs gives you, there's a burden. Every guy would like to be a little taller. Every guy would like to be a little it'd be nice. I'm 6'2". I'd love to be 6'4". I'd love to be 6'5". Just a little taller. I could. But there's a burden with being that tall. Try traveling on a commercial airline. Try finding shoes and clothes when you're 6'7". Those NBA guys can shop in about 3 places in America. It's almost biblical. If the man upstairs gives you a gift, my friends, you will use it. People that sing in the shower do because it sounds good. The man upstairs gave him a voice, he or she. The man upstairs gave Carson Wentz and very few others on the planet all the gifts. Carson Wentz is 6'5", 235, A+. His arm is a rocket, A+. His mobility is an A+. Cam Newton, Carson Wentz, and Aaron Rodgers are absurdly gifted by any historic quarterback standard. And when you're given those gifts, you're a little less patient in the pocket. You'll just go out and run. You're slightly harder to coach. Sometimes you've got this, hey, I got it mentality. We've seen it with Rodgers. We've seen it with Cam. And it's why Carson Wentz keeps getting hurt. This is not to say Carson Wentz is difficult to coach, but Nick Foles is easier because Nick Foles is limited. He's not a great athlete. He doesn't have a rocket arm. He's not very mobile. He accepts coaching because he has to. He's more patient in the pocket because he has to be. He's better pre-snap at this point between the two because he has to be. The 2 best pre-snap quarterbacks in my life are Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. They had to be. They weren't great athletes. When the man upstairs gives you gifts, you will use them. That is the burden of being Cam and the burden of being Aaron Rodgers and the burden of being John Elway. And that is the burden of having Terry Bradshaw's arm. You're going to try to throw it through a keyhole from 38 yards. Alex Smith never does. Nick Foles is not more talented. Carson Wentz is your future. But when you watch the Eagles play and Nick Foles throws it, you end up saying this a lot. Wow, what a catch. When Carson Wentz throws it and you watch the Eagles, you end up saying this a lot. Wow, what a throw. This team does feel more like a cohesive team with Nick Foles. And they'll have to figure that out. But as Chris Carter said this morning on First Things First, don't kid yourself. Don't fall for brief lightning in a bottle. Wentz is the decade-long talent going forward.
I'm going to give you your hypothetical situation. He wins the Super Bowl. Okay. And you know what I do? I recoup some of those picks, and I ship him out of town. Because if he does
Nick Foles out of town. Ship
yes.
Nick Foles. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. I get you what you want. I get you some of those picks, and I go with the quarterback that's got the lower cap number and has got a higher ceiling. So if Nick Foles has won you 2 Super Bowls, let me tell you something. He's tapped out. You think he's going to win a 3rd one?
I completely agree. This is football. One of the reasons it's so much better than every other sport. It's complicated. I mean, we know the Warriors are going to win. They got more good players. But football it's tricky. You can have the best defense and not win, and an average defense and win. But boy, it helps if you have a great quarterback But Dak Prescott wasn't as good as Russell Wilson, and he won. And who's the better quarterback? Tim Tebow looks like, oh, he's not very good. We thought he was really good. And Mark Sanchez looked good, and then he wasn't good. And long-term sustainability, Chris Carter is right. Wentz is the better player. Over time, he'll get better pre-snap. But football is great because there are no easy answers. And Foles and Wentz, it's a dilemma. But Howie Roseman's one of the smartest guys in this league running the Eagles. They will choose Wentz. Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
They will choose Wentz. Will Wentz ever win them a Super Bowl?
Now,
that's the question.
Now, and that will be even more fascinating if Foles wins a second. He won't. But if Foles won a second, Wentz is a Pro Bowler for 10 years and never wins one. Who do you love in Philadelphia?
I mean, you gotta love Foles. He won the championship.
If Wentz is a 12-year Pro Bowler with no Super Bowls and Foles leaves, who do they build the statue in front of 20 years from now?
You think they give him a statue? I don't know. They won't know if they'll go that far. So Jason Garrett continues to find a way to stick around and impress Jerry Jones after the Cowboys wildcard win over the Seahawks. Jerry had some high praise for Jason Garrett. He said, I think this win will make people think more highly of Jason. You look around at all the teams that are on the search for head coach right now, and we've got one that has a lot of experience on our dime over the last several years. I'm proud that he's having this success.
Once again, Jerry is more functional than you think.
Okay, but maybe we just pump the brakes just for a second. He is just 2-2 in the playoffs. Jason Garrett is.
Okay, but
I'm not saying Jason Garrett is a bad coach. I've never thought that Jason Garrett was a bad coach. I think that he's the perfect coach for Jerry Jones.
Now that you and I agree with.
Now, I don't necessarily think he is a better coach than some of these other coaches that have had the tenure that he's had. I don't think he'd have the same level of success, with another team, but I don't know that this win doesn't change my opinion of Jason Garrett. Now, if they go on through the playoffs, time will tell. But for me right now, that win doesn't change, in my opinion, on Jason Garrett either way.
Yeah, we tend to in sports. Everything's great or terrible. I always say this with my football picks. My first rule with all the picks is there's no great teams in the salary cap era, and there's no terrible teams. You can watch the Colts go down to Jacksonville, couldn't score this year.
Right.
So get out of the great and terrible. Jason Garrett's not great and he's not terrible. I think he's an above-average head coach. I think he's very, very smart. I think he's a good listener. On the sidelines, he can drive people crazy. But this win proves again he is not incompetent. He's a very competent NFL head coach.
I never felt that he was incompetent. I just feel like other coaches being put in the position that he's in with Jerry Jones
would
and
have
Dallas
more
Cowboys.
Success.
No, I actually don't think they would have. I think it would be tougher for them. So Jason Garrett's the perfect coach for that position. Now, will they ever get over the top with Jason Garrett? I don't know, but that win doesn't change my opinion of him either way. It doesn't make me think like higher or worse than them. So the Ravens struggled to find some offense until it was too late in a 23-17 loss to the Chargers, and now their season is over. Baltimore obviously stuck with Lamar Jackson with Joe Flacco watching from the sideline, and there was a loud chorus of boos in the stadium of fans wanting to bench Jackson, and Flacco did not believe that would have been the correct thing to do.
We made the decision what was going to happen here, weeks ago, and I just really wanted to see the guys turn it up a little bit and make a fight of it, which they did. No, you can't even go there, man. I thought Lamar did a great job of just hanging in there and, and giving us a chance at the end.
By the way, why does everybody want to bench Lamar Jackson, but nobody was calling for Mitch Trubisky to be benched? They were both awful in the first half. I mean, I went on Twitter for about 5 minutes. It's like, you got to sit Lamar Jackson. My takeaway is, so you basically have designed an offense specifically for this kid, and then you're going to go in the middle of your playoff game at home when you're still in the game, we're going to bench him and bring in a purely pocket quarterback.
Well, Flacco did win them a Super Bowl.
Yeah, years ago.
We're not talking about a rational situation here. Okay, these are fans yelling from inside the stadium. So they're not, it's not like we're looking at all the facts. They're just yelling. He did win them a Super Bowl. Mitch Trubisky's had the job all year.
Yeah.
Flacco had the job at the beginning of the year, albeit terrible, which is why Lamar Jackson was in. That's the thought in their mind. The most popular guy in a losing situation is the backup quarterback.
Yeah, but there's no way in the world. When people are saying that, my takeaway is timeout. Trubisky and Lamar Jackson have a lot of similarities. I don't know if it's sustainable once you have to pay those guys and your defense isn't as good. They can certainly win games. By the way, Trubisky was awful in the first half, but made a couple of great throws late. Lamar was awful in the first half, but made a couple of great throws late. When you decide, I'm going to use this kind of offense.
Right.
This offense doesn't look like 90% of the offenses in the NFL.
Well, because it's limited.
You have to go all in on this. You don't yank Trubisky in the third quarter. You don't yank Lamar Jackson.
I did not like the idea of putting Flacco in for 1 second. And then you put Flacco in a terrible position as well, because the only time to do it would be after the half anyway, right? You're not going to just put him in for the fourth quarter. That's insanity. So if you put him in for the half and he does terrible as well, what have you done?